E-Carrier Check Channel, where we bring you the insider tips, tricks, and insights to drive your sales and logistics business to new heights. Each week, your hosts, Jared and Nate, sit down with the top professionals in the industry, diving deep into everything from prospecting and cold calling to maintaining carrier relationships and maximizing your bottom line. Learn real-world strategies, hear success stories, and get actionable advice you can implement in your business today. So buckle up and get ready for an entertaining and informative ride. This is the E-Carrier Check Channel, your source for can't-miss logistics intelligence. Stay tuned.
There you go.
Hey, do you guys hear us okay?
There you go. Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah, I bet we can.
Okay. You guys should be able to hear us now.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Although that's off that mic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is off that. They should be able to hear us. So, let's back to what you were saying.
Yeah. What I think is interesting about cold calls is a majority of cold calling communication fails in the first 30 seconds, right? A majority of it, just out of the gate, you either overstep on them, you sound robotic. You know what I mean? It's just so damn awkward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like going up to somebody, at a bar and trying to start a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that go? Right. And so with cold calling, we're talking about like what not to do today, right? The number one thing with cold calling is I think, yes, you can practice with a script, but you shouldn't sound robotic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that you've always said too, since I've known you, is it sounds so simple, but be yourself. It sounds simple, but once you pick up that phone, it's almost like, shoot, I don't even know who I am anymore. You know what I mean? Right. But no, you're right though. Since you said that, it's always stuck with me, and I always tell people, when we meet with the newer freight brokers that come into this industry, or carriers for that matter, they're great people, and as soon as they let their guard down, they start to be themselves. And I think that's what people need to really think about when they're cold calling. Is one, be yourself. Two, think about why you're doing this. Because I think it really helps you kind of just reach your goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all have goals, whether it's personal, business related.
Yep.
So I just think we got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I definitely like. I like having a script. I like using ChatGPT, but I like that when I'm not live in a call. Go practice.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Go do some role playing with people, and just say, hey, do you mind if we role play cold calling?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get over the awkwardness of role playing with others, you can get over that phone call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I definitely recommend, A, let's not talk like a robot, but B, let's use that script to role play.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what I think is wildly important.
Yeah. Another thing too that I don't recommend doing is, have you ever heard someone that just kind of like, oh my gosh, that was a bunch of run-on sentences, right? You kind of start blabbing, you kind of get so nervous, you almost feel like you haven't shut up or you haven't been breathing, right? Take some deep breaths. Try not to, babble. Let that person on the other end talk. You're big on the pauses. Tell me about like those pauses. You're really good at it.
Yeah, I love, and I think people do when they get nervous, when they feel things are awkward.
Right.
I do think that you get kind of caught up just blabbing, just kind of continually running on a sentence. Where I think, what a lot of people struggle with is they don't go to a solution-based sale and they're really just product selling. You know what I mean? They're going into all the little things that they do, not about what they do, like about what the actual shipper does, right? And so having an intentional question to start that call, it should just be basic fundamentals, right? Hey, I understand you're in the railroad industry and you're doing, this, or I understand you're in the utility industry and you're doing this. Quick question and pause. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is really interesting.
Oh yeah.
Cranked up 70 yesterday. It's a numbers game, baby. It is, man. Like it really is.
Right.
How, Gabe, when you're cranking out 70, what's the first 20 seconds of your calls looking like or sounding like, right? We just talked a little bit about being robotic a moment ago, but I think you can almost say that for number 2 is don't be robotic, because you need to have elevation in your pitch, in the way you sound. If I call and just say, hey, Gabe, this is Jared over at NT, it sounds terrible, right? So, we can say number 2 again is just don't be robotic. You've got to have pitch. You've got to have some sort of emotion, elevation, a slowdown, a pause, even like, just lowering your voice tone, right? Those things catch people's emotions and attention, right? A lot more than, hey, this is Jared over at B Carrier checking. It just doesn't work that way, right? And so going right out of the gate, asking a question, and then shut the heck up.
Yeah.
And they're either going to open up or they're going to tell you to F off. I'm sure Gabe got a couple of those yesterday, right?
I'm sure he did.
And so I think he maybe didn't get an F off, but he got hung up on, or he got told he wasn't interested, or they got, all those, we're not looking for carriers or brokers right now.
Right.
Sounds good.
Yeah. First off, Gabe, I hope you caught the Husker game last night.
I hope you did too. It
I
was
know.
a dub, brother. It was a dub.
But one thing too that I
He even
love.
said the other day, he goes, how bad the Huskers going to be. Not to rub it in, but just rub it in.
Oh my goodness! One thing too that we've, I think more or less it's just like you like to mirror people, and the way they sound, the way they breathe. You're big on mirroring people on cold calls. I love that too. You got to meet them where they're at.
Yep.
So if you're not meeting them where they're at on that call, try the mirror method, if you will.
I think real quick, just to go into that a little bit detail, is you can tell by their pitch, by their tone, by their speed, where they're at in their day.
Mm-hmm.
And that either transitions you into, let's ask some open-ended questions and see where they're at, if they seem friendly and willing to talk, or, hey, I know I'm interrupting your day. Would you have 15 minutes on Thursday to talk about why we're seeing fuel rates go up in the Arkansas area specifically, and see if there's any inbound, outbound opportunities that we could be helping you with? Right?
Yeah.
And then stop.
Different.
And stop. Right? And I think just having that quick little hitter, it shows that you recognize that they're busy or annoyed or something.
Yeah.
And that's all based on what you were saying is mirroring or hearing what they're, are they talking fast? Or are we talking fast? Are they talking slow? Right. And so I think it's wildly important. And if you're doing outside calls, this is even more important. If you're actually walking in, and I hope people are walking in, Gabe, a brother, I hope you're actually walking in, by the way, to a couple places if they'll let you, right? If they'll let you go out and do cold calls. But man, I tell you what, there's nothing better than walking into a building and looking at somebody in the eye that's a transportation manager, shipping manager, logistics manager, whatever they are, right? And just understanding their body language and their tones. And, humans obviously can't read minds, or things would be a lot easier.
Things might be a little weird.
Especially in the dating world, like it'd be a lot easier. But
Did you point at me?
or even like being married, honestly. My wife probably is like, what the hell is he thinking about? But seeing somebody in person really helps you elevate your sense once you're on the phone. It's almost like a blind person. Do you know any blind people?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
Their other senses are wildly heightened, right? They hear things better. They feel things differently, right? And so you almost become blind when you're cold calling versus walking in, right? That helps you elevate that, right? So when you can walk in, it'll not only help you with cold calling, but it'll help you sense where they're at.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I love that. Gabe said that. What I love about Gabe too, he has some high quality conversations.
Oh yeah, the guy's killing it.
He just had a cold call yesterday that led to a 25-minute cold call and led to an opportunity for 4 OD loads this week of the 8th.
I love that. See, 25-minute cold calls are real. That's no longer a cold call.
That just knows you're asking those types of good
Absolutely.
questions.
Yeah, Gabe's just bringing in the hoss, man. Like,
He's been killing.
You look like our tight end last night, Gabe. You're just friggin' dancing down the road and friggin' knowing people over.
Gabe did tell me it was an ugly win, but
I'm also curious about how you handle your trucking. Yeah, is that what you're saying? I'd be curious if that's what I was looking for information about their business. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I definitely think even too, we're talking about things that are mistakes here. I would say one of the bigger mistakes is not doing just a little bit of homework. If you're just smiling and dialing, man, that's just not going to help.
Yeah.
But if you know something about their business or something that you can relate to, not terrible, right? And I think it helps with just understanding, hey, we've got to take 2 minutes, 3 minutes. This is why I like e-carrier check, because we bring out those highlighted points for you. So at least within a 10 to 20 second period of the overview that we present and say, oh, these are the 5 things they do. Here's some locations, things like that, right? Yeah. Makes you be able to talk more local, makes you be able to relate better, things like that.
Right, yeah. I think one thing too that a lot of people kind of overlook is not knowing your own company's information. So if you're at a new company and you don't know your MC or you don't know your phone number, start there too.
Yeah,
you don't want to get I'll call you back. I don't know my whatever, right? So,
having an understanding of who you work for is a wildly good idea.
It happens.
It does honestly. I always move into a sense of curiosity about the business. I always do pre-call investigating of the industry and if there's potential for me to help. Yeah, I think the pre-call thing is kind of interesting. Like that's a wildly good idea too. We used to do what we would call kind of a ladder-based selling, and we would do this when we were approaching CEOs, right? And so I would call multiple locations or multiple people at different levels that were willing to talk. This is also how people get hacked, by the way. Everyone's like, oh, he broke into my computer. No, it was Dorothy in accounting that gave up her password. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
But what we would do in ladder selling is I would call these locations and just ask curious questions. I would just say, hey, how do you handle your freight? What's the process of getting it to the carrier? How do you find carriers? What's the biggest pet peeve you have about your location? Well, we close at 3 and the neighbor across the street has an Indian statue and we can't get trucks backed up right. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, the guy, I know, the guy back here, I don't know if you've seen the driver that delivers to this business right here. Man, that guy just needs that rock. There's a rock across the street that's like, it's the size of this table. He almost hits that thing every week.
And I bet he wants that thing gone.
It's so funny. Oh my gosh, he's like, he'll inch forward. It's a 53-foot van, and he's just inching. And then he'll back up.
Those drivers that back in back here, they're talented.
This is an impossible dock.
Very
talented.
I mean?
It's very impossible dock. Like,
yeah.
I would be here at 5 a.m. and back in. And then,
I'd be there from 8 to 12
like
lunchtime.
It'd take me 7 hours to hit back into that dock.
Yeah, dude, there's some talented carriers.
There's some talented freaking drivers, that's for sure.
One thing too that
back to real quick what I would do on the ladder. So what I would do is I would call these locations, and I would gain as much knowledge as I could about the process from accounting to procuring or sourcing carriers, and I would kind of bring that all together. And then what I would do is I would call the CEO, the president, someone at the higher level, and I'd be like, hey, I actually have had an opportunity to talk to multiple divisions. Here are 3 things that I'm seeing that you could actually be saving money on or streamlining the process on and saving man hours. Would you have some time to talk about your network and how you guys manage your supply chain from a top level? And sometimes it used to be shipping's a lot more, shipping logistics are still a lot more magnified now than when we were first started. It was just a truck, guy would show up, Daryl would come and pick it up. And now, guess what? Your supply chain costs 10 to 12, maybe even 15% of your friggin' gross revenue, right? So that's something that's a real number. You got to start looking at it going, can I save any money here? But you don't need to do it from a transactional aspect. You need to look at it from the top down, not trying to bleed it up from the bottom. And that's probably why we're at where we're at with the spot market is that, we're trying to save money on the bottom end instead of looking things down. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm kind of curious, you said when did you kind of get to the point where you're like, I'm gonna start calling CEOs and start calling these presidents, right? As a new broker, that could be intimidating. Like, I'm talking to the CEO today. Like, what the heck? What if they ask me a question I don't know? And by the way, don't ever say I don't know. I'm more of the person of like, hey, let me get back to you on that, and I'll talk to my team leader or whatever that may be, right?
Right.
But it is, back to my question was, when did you get to that point where you're like, what, I am going to start calling CEOs and just kind of hit that next level?
So we transitioned. Yeah, when I first started in brokering or in logistics, we were a managed service. That the people that I was working with, they were a managed service concept. They wanted it all or nothing.
Okay.
They would broker some, but they really wanted to help inventory control and days of pay and cash flow and all that stuff that kind of comes along with it. And so to answer your question, it took me a while to get to that point. Okay. I had several years under the belt. I already understood, transportation fairly well. Then it was just a matter of transitioning to what's important to the CEO, what's important to the CFO. And so I started listening to financial reports. And so like anytime there was a quarterly report, I would listen to what their CEO said. And then usually whatever quotes came out of his mouth were the hook that I put in the subject line.
That's nice little.
So if he was talking about operational excellence, I put in operational excellence. Okay. I started to mirror what he said in his financial call in an email.
Interesting.
And I would start to bring them back, or I would leave messages. Now, some of these large CEOs, you can't ever get to them, right? Mm-hmm. It's they've got somebody monitoring their email, they've got somebody answering their phones, and so it's definitely a higher level of a call that takes a lot more finesse. You know what I mean?
And it takes longer to. It just takes longer, right?
Yeah.
You think you're going to get, that first week you're going to have a 25-minute call.
Right.
It's probably going to take 2 to maybe 6 months. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing numbers out there, but
it's definitely dependent on how quick you can learn and how many stripes you can get. Like Gabe, for instance. RJ, what's up? What's going on?
RJ. Yeah, shout out to
Phoenix Brokerage. I haven't talked to them for a while.
Hope you and Love are doing great.
Yeah.
We should
connect again. Haven't talked to them. If you can stripe out 70 calls a day, like Gabe is, you can learn a lot from those calls, a lot of what the issues are. And then from there, taking an educational approach to how supply chains work, how they affect cash flow, how they affect inventory levels. and then what CEOs care about from their standpoint versus what Dan cares about on the shipping floor, right? Dan just needs a truck to get in there, show up before they close at 3, get it to the customer, make the customer happy. Those are his roles, right?
Sure.
But from the top down, what does he care about? Well, he sees he's paying these vendors, maybe doesn't understand the value he's getting out of the vendors. There's a lot going on that are worth the time to learn from top down.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's different too.
and asking or prompting ChatGPT those specific questions now versus I didn't have that. I just had to ask these supply chain engineer guys. I had to ask them all these questions. I now that I have ChatGPT, you can learn this a lot quicker.
Right.
So
That's fair. Okay. We're doing good. Business is growing, getting busy. That's awesome.
I love that.
We love that when businesses are growing.
I do too.
That's
absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Jared, does anything else come to mind? You know, like I said, I hate dating you all the time, but
I know.
you know, you've been around so many things in this industry. You know, what comes to mind where you're just kind of like, yeah, don't do that, right? On a cold call. You know, you've heard and been through a lot of cold calls, so I'm just kind of picking your brain on what not to do, right?
Try not to. Have you ever talked to somebody you suck at communicating with?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens a lot, right? And you over talk each other. You step on them when they're talking. They're stepping on you when you're talking. Sometimes I do this with my daughter, and so I think being attentive to sounds and understanding when they start to talk, you shut up. You don't over talk them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let them talk. Have a pause. I know you're excited. I know you got somebody on the phone. You're excited to have a conversation. They talk. Pause. You talk. Pause. Right? And so over talking somebody is probably one of the worst things. Right? We got 2 robotic aspects from tone to pitch, and then coming in and not over talking. Like that's a huge thing. Making sure you're pausing, like we're talking about. And lastly, man, if they're talking, you don't need to talk. Just shut the hell up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just let them talk.
Yeah, if you can get to the point where they're just talking and you're listening,
Yeah, if you pie chart, Gabe, you should do this someday, by the way, just for shits and giggles. If you pie chart a percentage of your call, specifically with who's talking and they're talking, it should be 80-20. 80% them, 20% you. A cold call isn't about what you say, it's about what you hear. It's about listening. But it's about asking good questions so that they start talking. Right? So it's that 80-20 rule. So start to look at that pie chart and go, did I talk too much there? Did I ask enough questions? Were they talking more than I was talking? Once you can get that, it'll start to flow better. And then it's just blocking and tackling with a conversation.
Okay. I appreciate that. But here's the real question of the day. And Cody wants to know this, by the way. Cody, did you tune into the Huskers last night? If you tuned into the Huskers last night, I'll take your Buckeyes, okay? I'll take your Buckeyes.
Real question of the week. This is a real question, honestly. I saw, so yesterday I was looking at spreads. Not that we gamble, but I was looking, okay? Nebraska didn't cover. It was 6.5 last night. Oh, what do you do? It's 1.5 Buckeyes.
Really?
Yeah. It's 1.5 Buckeyes. I think Manning's got a lot to prove this year. He was so hyped, man. You know what I mean? He was so hyped. It'll be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah.
Horns down. I kind of agree with Gabe here. I'm probably going to go Buckeyes, but I hate Ohio State. I don't really like Ryan Day.
Okay.
I never have. I don't know what to tell you. I don't really dislike people. I just think he's an interesting dude, right? So I can't wait. Tomorrow, I'm not moving off my couch. I'm not kidding. I'm going to get up. I'm watching Lee Corso's last friggin' game day. I'm going to watch that 10 o'clock game. Then I'm going to wait until I may smash out some stuff in my garage. And then that Clemson game, right back on the couch. We got to focus. You know what I mean? So tomorrow's a huge day. I can't wait. I love college football. It'll be interesting to see. Definitely would be interesting to see who Cody has. Who does he like? Texas or Buckeyes? Throw it out there. What did Gabe just say?
Oh, Cody's definitely Buckeyes.
Yeah, I thought that's what he was.
But yeah, Gabe, this is huge too. Yeah, 100%. There's almost always a large discrepancy between with the shipping and receiving guy is seeing related to what the CEO level wants.
Yeah, even like you know the other one too to add to this wheel, and I think it's wildly important that you add this in your knowledge bank or in the way you think about how things work, is shipping and receiving, purchasing, and the person that's always lost that you're always wondering, well, how do you know if they paid right? But the accounts receivable lady or guy, whoever it is, that person is wildly disconnected from everybody. She just pays people. You know what I mean? And she doesn't really know, right? So that's somebody I would recommend. Like when you're thinking about like doing kind of ladder selling, always just push 3 to accounts payable and just talk to that gal. So have you ever talked yourself out of a sale? That's a great question, Cheap Freight Hauler. What's up, brother? It's good to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say I've talked myself out of a sale, but I know when there's clients that aren't right. How about that? There's certain clients that I just don't jive with, and maybe you can pass them on if you have that option to give them to a different broker, different agent, because they may connect better. I'm not for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, and so have I ever talked myself out of a sale? More so because they didn't fit with me, right? Or I didn't fit with them. They didn't care for me, right? So I had a great conversation with AP gal, the best customer earlier this week. Yeah, honestly, it's something you got to do. And it's interesting to hear how they get communicated with what the quote was. How do they know what to pay? How do they know when to pay? What options do they have to pay? I went to a client with a buddy of mine this week, and I said, well, hey, just ask them if they have an option to pay ACH. He's like, yeah, I've never thought about that. Sure as hell. Guess what? 5 years into this relationship, they've been sending checks in the mail, and they prefer to do ACH just because we asked a different question. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So love that. Jerome, what's up? I know we're early this morning, guys. We just wanted to get out there and spread some love today.
Yeah, so we got a couple meetings today to kind of end the week here, and then just help some people put out some fires. That's what we do. We like to help people anywhere we can. So
absolutely.
Jared, it's really nice to kind of just pick your brain. Like I said, you've been in this industry and heard a lot of things. I've been through a lot of things. Then a lot of the, than more than some people that I personally know. Yeah. So it's always fun to just kind of pick your brain and kind of put it out there. So I appreciate that you come on the show and kind of just put out your knowledge and your experiences. It's really good to hear. So I appreciate it, man. We are going to take off a little bit early today. We started early today. If you go back to the beginning, I didn't have the mic on, so it might be tough to hear. So I apologize.
It's our bad.
It's the day after a Husker game. Yeah. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Forgive us.
Forgive us. So you guys have a great weekend. Be safe. You're doing early traveling. Let's see here really quick.
I hate waiting on a check. Yeah,
everyone should be doing ACH.
Funny enough, a lot of clients don't. That's the weird thing, is a lot of clients don't. And then a lot of brokers, depending on the way they're set up, they don't have some of these options. They need to go work with their bank and like QuickBooks and kind of work through that.
Yeah. That's another. We should have a show on that.
Yeah, there's a whole. We could have an entire show on accounts payable. But Cody, Hope, OHIO.
Thanks, bro. We got you, brother.
I still don't like Ryan Day. I don't know why, but I think Ohio State wins tomorrow. Yeah. I think they will. So
yeah,
I hope you guys have an awesome friggin' day. Happy Labor Day.
Yeah, take it easy. Safe travel.